It's been about 70 years since television became commonplace, and it seems like we've been arguing ever since about what mass media is doing to our culture, our society, and our brains.
Well, now the argument's a lot more complex because of the explosion of new technologies that deliver sounds and words and pictures to us wherever we are and at any age.
Our inner world guide, Michele Bernhardt, has been examining this topic as part of our series on brain health.
Thanks, guys. For this report, we consulted a world-class group of teachers, activists, and commentators for their thoughts on media and our minds, what's happened so far and what the future may bring. First, the printing press, then books, newspapers, advertising, magazines, flyers, pamphlets. Wars were fought, cultures and nations destroyed and created over the ideas they spread, good and bad. Then things got serious. Movies, radio, and the electronic fireplace, that glowing box in the living room that commanded hours of attention. So persuasive, it held power over the most powerful. Was it good for us or bad? The debate was on. Enter the 21st century. And the question is more urgent than ever. What are those images and all that information doing to our brains?
We cover all different forms of media and how it affects us on so many levels. So we talk about how it can affect us cognitively, how it affects us emotionally, how it affects us physically, and the way we respond to these media, and why we're also drawn to the media.
Adjunct Professor Susan Jang teaches psychology and media at Columbia University's Teachers College.
What I sensed, this huge interest, is with the social media. I know that the students were so curious to see the research in social media, saying, what are the personality factors that go into social media use? And they got heated up. They said, does this mean that I'm a narcissist?
One of her guest speakers is Regina Scully, a documentary film producer and media activist. While creating media is her passion, she knows its power.
The media has a profound impact on our mental and our emotional health. Everything that we see on television, in the movies, reading, our iPads, all of our gadgets, they absolutely affect the neural pathways in our brains. We know this from medical studies. We literally are creating grooves in our brain where these images and messages find a home.
The lasting concern of media critics is what is being etched into those grooves.
I think we are certainly desensitized to some images, and I think certainly in the area of violence, I've seen it in the media that I've grown up with. There's much more graphic violence than there ever has been. And what I would have maybe shuddered before at, now I think as much about it. I don't think it elicits the same kind of emotion.
So it just makes sense that we would be very careful or more stringent about what we're ingesting in our minds. I call it a psychic diet. We literally need to pay more attention to the psychic diet that we're eating every day or putting into our minds.
Among Scully's friends and colleagues is Gloria Steinem, a pioneer in the modern women's movement, co-founder of Ms. Magazine and the influential Women's Media Center, and a lifelong observer of the impact of mass media.
Well, I would say there are only two problems: form and content. That's it. We can't empathize unless we are together with all five senses. So if we substitute the screen for human contact, it can be a problem. So the form, if it is used excessively, is a problem in itself. And the content, of course, there are just so many examples of things that television shows. It normalizes it. Then we who are actually normal feel like the exception, and even abnormal or wrong, and that's a problem.
For Steinem and Women's Media Center's co-founders Jane Fonda and Robin Morgan, both legends in their own right, choosing the best way to recast negative or distorted views in mass media was easy. Use mass media itself.
We wanted to not only criticize media, because we're all in one way or another journalists or media activists, Gloria and Jane and I, but we wanted to also model what a representative, real, creative, informative, funny, inspiring and empowering media would look and sound like.
She says making the media more representative of the world we live in is critical to supporting the aspirations of people in a media-saturated world.
If you can't see yourself or something that relates to your life in media, it's very difficult to imagine it out of nowhere. And it's a profoundly disturbing and enervating, sapping of energy effect. If you can't see it, you can't be it.
Making media that's a positive force for social change is a primary focus for Regina Scully. She works with the Women's Media Center and is an Academy Award-nominated producer and filmmaker. She says storytelling is humanity's oldest form of communication, and that is one key to building healthier mass media.
More and more, we're using film, storytelling as tools for education. They're developing curricula around these films and cinema and stories because they really show students across the country the link between how powerful the media is and what we are doing in our culture.
The second key just may be technology, new ways to respond to what we see and hear and to create and broadcast. Our own stories seem to pop up every day.
What a great class, right?
In her classroom and at home, Susan Jang is in a unique position to see how a new generation of media technology is affecting a new generation of minds.
We can post things, we can respond to things in a very quick and fast manner. It's become triangulated. So now we are at the center of this as well. So the equation has changed. So we're looking at media in a way that we're both a part of it and we can shape it, but we're also affected by it too. First and foremost, I love media. I watch a lot of media, I use a lot of media, and I also see my family using a lot of media. I have 2 daughters, they're 6 years apart, and even looking at the way they use media has changed dramatically in that 6-year span.
For Susan's students' generation, the days of being passive recipients of mass media are fading away. And as so many have discovered in other quests for healthier minds and bodies, it's better to be in control than it is to be controlled.
A lot of times in these courses we focus on the negative of media, and it's nice to take in that extra positive aspect that's often overlooked. And even though we don't like how media is at the moment, there's still that platform for change in media itself that we can use the system to change it.
It's increasing the media literacy, literally the media literacy of our country. And so it's been a very profound experience to work with these students at different universities. Our students need to see how our media is creating our culture. In fact, media does create culture. And we need to care about that because culture creates our legacy.
For many of us these days, restraint and balance are keys to avoid being overwhelmed by electronic media. That and making sure your media diet includes positive, healthy content. But while it's true that technology offers us new ways to respond to media and even to create and distribute our own messages, the flood of mass media can still be overwhelming. One thing we still value most about our devices, big and small, that have screens and speakers is the ability to turn them off if we need to. In fact, our friend Dr. Andrew Weil once recommended taking a news fast from time to time as a way to maintain that balance between media and our life in the real world. Another thing to remember is just because you read it or saw it on TV doesn't mean it's true. What we say and the stories we share or tune into can either bring light into the world or spread hurt and fear. We have a lot of power here. The choice is ours.
That's right, Michele. As long as Healing Quest is part of that media diet.
Oh, good advice. You know, Michele mentioned bringing light into the world. And in this next story, you're going to meet a couple people who are doing exactly that in a big way that could have a big impact on how we all recover from serious illnesses.
Stay tuned. You may never think of an ICU the same way again.